You're going to come to a main website page and you're going to be able to make donations. That said, we kind of have a phased approach here so that we can build out all the functionality that we need with the website. So your dashboard pages will not be available right on the 1st of March. They will be rolled out on April 1st. However, you can still get all your same information that you would through your dashboard, through your liaisons, and they can get that information for you. So this is a sampling of what you'll be able to, when you look up groups and locations, this functionality will be improved so that you can type in, you know, city, state, zip code, you know, the start, pretty much anything, like the start of a cemetery name, a start of a town name, and all of the locations and groups in the system will be able to pop up and you'll be able to find them. So these are what the pages will look like. You will, every month moving forward, because we're doing this phased approach and there'll be new functionality added at the 1st of every month, we will be adding a kind of a feature in our webinar each month of what's coming next. So don't panic when you can't get on your dashboard right away. We're confident that this rollout is the right way to do this, and kind of giving different features time to make sure everything's working properly and being tested properly before moving on to the next thing. So basically, the new dashboards, I think people will be excited about. All the functionality that we have come to kind of know and love will still be there, but we think that we're going to be able to have much easier use for everybody and a little bit more user friendly. So we're really excited. If you have any questions or concerns, we really, please reach out to your liaison. You will still be able to accept any donations made directly to your page during this time. So don't worry about that. And you know, just know that you can still direct people to your wreathsacrossamerica.org/your-ID to get donations made directly to your page in the interim. So we're pumped. We're working really hard. We've been working really hard over the last year, and we're really excited to move forward with this. So just wanted to let everybody know. Julie, did I miss any important pieces?
Nope. We're very excited about this, and like Amber said, you know, a lot of the stuff that you guys have become familiar with, we're not taking that away. We're just making it a little bit more user friendly, and so that it works all the time, not just when it wants to. Just for during that time when the website is, when you do not have access to your dashboard, the information is still going to be collected. So if you need any reports or anything like that, you can just reach out to your liaison and we can get that for you. So you won't have access to it, but we will have access to it and can get you anything that you need.
Yeah. And a couple of questions on here, will all of the old pictures and verbiage transition over? So all of our media data, so pretty much all the data that's in our current site is in the process of being transferred over. All of the photos and items that are inside that currently stored in our site will be transferring over to the new site. There might need to be some updated, customization when your dashboards are ready, just in terms of making sure that it's the way you like it. But all of the materials that have been saved into the current site will be available, if that answers that question. But, and just so we're clear, a big piece of this too is the back end. It's very interesting. I don't know how to say this. So the operational back end of what happens for Wreaths Across America to ensure that all the wreaths get to where they need to be and carryovers work and all the money is sorted and processed the way it's supposed to be is a pretty big undertaking. The team that we're working with, our new group, has put a lot of time and energy into the processing of all of that and really made some improvements on our back end, which we're really excited about. That's going to help everybody in the long run. So we will see, so the question, George, your question regarding carryovers, you can reach out to your liaison and make sure you get, and they have that information available for you.
Yes, so we won't see anything, like you said, until on or about April 1st. So we have to call our liaison to get anything.
once the website is, the new one is released on that's when we will send you an email when you do not have access any longer to those pages. And during that time, yes, anything that you need from the website, you would just go to your liaison for.
Okay, thank you.
So any checks, any donations that are being made right now, Alice, regarding, regarding, I think Phyllis has a question, how long it will wait to see donations made by check. Any donations that are being received right now, that is all being processed and that information is available to you. So you know, nothing is not being processed. Everything is still moving forward as it normally would be. All of our checks, anything that's coming through Wreaths Across America right now is being processed in real time. Paybacks have been sent for November and December. They're working on January now. If you have not received a payback check for whatever reason, please contact your liaison to clarify whatever might be holding that check up.
And any donations that come in during that time, you're going to see them on the front end of your webpage. So you're still going to see that Wreathometer going up. You're still going to see the count going up. Any carryovers that are applied, you're going to see that roll into your wreath count as well. And they're actually looking to put the carryovers in within the next week. So you may actually be able to, see that on your report before you wouldn't have access anymore. But again, you can always contact your liaison. We can download those reports and send them to you during that time.
Hey, I have a question. I'm new to this. I just got invited to the webinar last month and previously was not involved and don't really know what the difference is between group leaders and location coordinators in order to sign the correct updated policy. So can you explain that a little bit?
Sure. So let me
go ahead, Julie. So any other questions about the website before we move forward about the policies? Just want to get that. This will be recorded and made available. We will be sending out communications to keep everyone updated, just so everyone's clear. Go ahead, Julie.
All right, so I'm just going to jump on into the reinstating, and regarding your question with, what's the difference between like groups and locations, I would really encourage you to reach out to your liaison and have a conversation with her, because that's quite an in-depth conversation that probably needs to happen there, so that we make sure that you're on the right page and that we have you set up the way that you need to be set up.
Okay, I'll do that. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. So for reinstatements, everyone is required to reinstate yearly. You should have received an email last week with some updated policies for groups and locations. Later this week, your regional liaison will start sending out those reinstatement emails to those who have signed the updated policies. If you haven't signed the updated policies, you will not be receive that reinstatement email until you have signed it.
Julie?
Mm-hmm.
Hi, my name is Stacy. Why do you ask for the reinstatement annually? I'm new to this, so I would love to know and understand why.
Sure. So that's because the information changes yearly. And we want to make sure that we always have accurate information available regarding mailing addresses, shipping addresses, and all that. And we have learned over the years, it is best to get that information verified each year so that we always have accurate stuff.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The reinstatement emails will have all of your information pulled into the email for you for quick viewing. So all you're going to do, you're going to get the email, you're going to read down through it carefully, make sure all the information is accurate. And then there'll be a link in there that you can just click on, and you can either select yes, confirming that everything is the same, or you can select no, and it will give you the option to provide us with the information that needs to be updated. We're really trying to make this as simple as we can for you guys, because we understand as volunteers, your time is precious, but we do have to have this just verified every year. Also, keep in mind that if you have a group and a location, or if you have multiple locations and groups, you will have multiple reinstatement emails. We don't have a way to pull in all that information into one email at this time, so we have to do them one by one. Or you can call your liaison and they can do it for you over the phone. So you know, with the policy updates, going into our 14th year as a national nonprofit organization, and as we continue to grow, we have more people looking at Wreaths Across America and wanting to get involved. So in order to ensure that things are consistent across the board and that everyone is complying with local rules and regulations, we have had to update some of the policies in order to prevent issues in the future. You should have all received a copy of those updated policies. So I'm not going to go through all of them, but I did want to address a few that we've heard the most feedback about so that we can kind of talk through those. So on the location policies, we added that it's now required to have a second point of contact in the role of co-coordinator. Think of this as more of a backup. We have to ensure that we always have a way to contact someone regarding delivery or to provide volunteers looking for information with a point of contact. And we understand you're all volunteers. A lot of you have, you know, full-time jobs outside of this. And planning this event is a big job. So it just makes it that much more important to have backup so that we always have someone we can reach. On the group leaders policies, we have asked that group leaders communicate at least once every 6 weeks with their regional liaison to keep their account details up to date. This is just to keep in touch to ensure that the information you have on file is updated. This will help prevent payback checks from going to the wrong place or mailings from being lost. This could be as simple as just replying to one of the monthly emails that your regional liaison sends out so that they know that you're receiving our informational emails. And on both the location and group policies, we have asked that when using the WAA tax ID number to solicit grants for your group or location, that you notify your regional liaison prior to applying for the grant to receive further instructions. We are going to be providing you with a form that you can fill out when you apply for a grant or an employee matching donation, or if you simply need help applying for one. We will also have a form for you to submit your Facebook fundraisers online as well, rather than screenshotting them and emailing them to the finance office as we have in the past. We're very excited about this as we feel this will greatly streamline the vital information that our finance office needs in order to easily track and process those special donations. And you can expect to see those forms as well as the instructions for how to submit them in about a week from your regional liaison. And now we're just going to kind of open it up to anyone who might have any other questions regarding reinstatement or any of the policies.
This is Marty Menez. Just please briefly define group for me.
A sponsorship group is a group that is registered with us as a 3-for-2, $5 back, or a no play group. And they're not responsible for coordinating the ceremony. They're just out there raising funds for one or more locations.
Julie, how do we get that email? I've already gone back to look in my old email and I cannot find it. Can that be reset?
Mm-hmm. Just call your regional liaison and have them send that, and it may be that we have some file, so we may need to update.
Okay, now when you say call, I don't know who my person is in North Carolina.
So that is actually going to be Trish, and I'm going to scroll over to the page here that has that contact information so you can see it right there, and you can reach out to her.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Julie, this is Phil Bailey from Glen Carbon, Illinois.
Hi, Phil.
And on question number 1, it talks about all sponsorships and groups. Now, are you talking about sponsorships financially or sponsorships trying to help with the ceremonies?
Are you looking on the location form or the group one?
I'm looking at the page 1 of the policies.
So you're talking about the one where it says as a location coordinator, you're responsible for coordinating the event and working with all groups and individuals who want to participate?
Be responsible for coordinating the event. Yes, that's it.
Okay, yeah, so that's just basically as the location coordinator, you know, we kind of have its location coordinator, groups underneath them, volunteers as well. So the role as a location coordinator, you're responsible for, you know, communicating with everyone who wants to be, you know, involved in placing wreaths, you know, working with the cemetery and anything like that.
Well, I represent the Sons of the American Revolution in Edwardsville, Illinois. And I get no help out of them.
Mm-hmm.
I've asked if anyone wants to help me with Wreaths Across America. No response. My wife does all the typing for me. She makes out the programs and anything that has to be typed. Otherwise, I do all the work at the cemetery, and my wife helps me out at the cemetery a little bit. Now, I am willing to instruct or explain what Wreaths Across America is all about. I've got one group together in Grand Fork, Illinois, and this is their second year at doing it, or last December was. The first year I tried it from American Veterans in Greenville, Illinois, and they said they would place the wreaths, but they didn't want to do anything else.
Yeah. And I know you and I have kind of talked about this in the past, Bill, and I know that struggle there. So in the policies here, we're not telling you have to go out and get groups and work with all these people. It's if you are a location coordinator and you have groups coming to you with an interest in being involved, we are an all-inclusive event. So we want to include them, and we just want to make sure that you're communicating with them when to be there, when the wreaths are going to be placed, you know, the timing around all that. That's all that's asking for.
Well, the Village of Glen Carbon cooperates with us very well. And we have a good relationship, and they asked me to come back this year.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So,
and I think regarding like any other specifics with some, you know, the struggles with the groups and stuff, just reach out to your liaison, which is, oh my gosh, I'm going to mess this up. On this that is Rochelle now. So you can reach out to Rochelle, and she is your new liaison, and she can get you taken care of.
okay. Now,
and answer any questions that you might have.
the Sons of the American Revolution does not have a website.
That's fine. It's not
What kind of problem
required. It's not required. So remember, these policies are there. They're not saying you have to go out and do all of, you know, if you don't have a website, you have to have a website. This is just, it's kind of all inclusive. So it's not going to fit every single person. Again, if you have questions, just reach out to Rochelle, maybe connect with her tomorrow, and she can walk you through the rest of this, because we have a lot of other people ask questions. I want to hop on over to them. Okay.
Yes. Do I have time for two more short questions? Very short.
Sure.
Well, you mentioned that the wreaths the cemetery will be cleaned up in a timely manner. How much time are you giving us?
That's what's up to the cemetery director. So you just need to speak to the cemetery manager, because every area is going to be different.
We exceeded their qualifications, or we did that. And it talks about certain exclusions and limitations of acceptable. And what are those exclusions? And question number 10 on the second page.
So that I'm actually going to refer you to contact Rochelle on, because she can actually connect you with our insurance person who can, you know, give you the specifics on that.
Thank you.
Hi, Phil. This is Rochelle. Go ahead and give me a call tomorrow, and I can send you a copy of our insurance liability policy if you need, and I can answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Bye
All
now.
right.
Julie, we have three
John,
people with their hands up.
Yeah,
I'm here.
Dawn, I've seen you had your hand up for a while. Let's go ahead and start with you.
It's all right. You know I'm patient. I'm going to ask an old question that you and I have discussed many times. A lot of people this year, because of the pandemic and the situation in the cemeteries, had to, or went and made a video. Are we looking at or exploring at finding a way to get those on our Facebook page? Or can't that be done?
On the Wreaths Across America Facebook page?
Yeah, or well, I think more specifically, I would like it on for me, it would be the Dublin Cemetery, because when people go there, you saw the video we did, and it would be nice if they could see that, but it's specific to that cemetery, so I think it would be more meaningful if it was on our the web or the Facebook page. And the webpage for our specific cemetery.
Don,
So for the,
go ahead, Julie.
I was gonna say, so for the web page, I mean, that is something that it's kind of a wish list item. It's not something that we're gonna have the ability to necessarily have that on right away, but we are looking at, having that functionality, hopefully sooner rather than later, to be able to have videos on there. For your Facebook page, if you have a Wreaths Across America Facebook page for your cemetery, we can certainly share it on there, and we can certainly help you if you need help with that.
Yeah, Don, reach out to the PR team. We have Sam on our PR team can help you get whatever you need on your page posted. You can post it at any time.
Okay, yeah, because you saw the one we put out for.
Yeah, it was really, we shared it all over the page, all over.
I think we shared.
Yeah,
I think you shared it on the official page. So yeah, you just need. We can help you do that. It's very easy to post. So we can just reach out.
All right, thank you.
All right, Betty, Karen, you had your hand raised.
Yeah, I'm in Region 5, and I just got a new liaison. The only big issue, one thing, I missed a couple minutes at the beginning. The policy email that you're talking about, we were supposed to have received that already, or it's still coming out?
We sent it out Friday, so check your spam folder. A lot of times we tend to end up there. If it's not there, you can just reach out to Tiffany, who is the Region 5 liaison, and she can resend that to you.
Okay. And last year, the big issue that we had with because we have like 4 different groups, and I'm the coordinator for those 4 groups. And I also have another person signed up as the coordinator, but only because it's easier for him to figure out who's sponsoring. Unfortunately, when I would email out volunteers last year, they would try to email back, and all of the responses were going to him, and that's not his job. And Rachel said something about
that will not happen in the new website.
Okay.
That was something, it snuck up on us. We did not know that it was going on until it was too late to really fix it during December. But it has already been addressed, and it will not happen in the new website. So you are set.
Okay. All right, I totally brain farted the last question. I'm sorry, so I'll let somebody else go.
All right. Julie Sorensen, you had your hand raised?
Yes, I was looking at I'm a ceremony coordinator for Wood Cemetery in Milwaukee. And my main concern is going through the policies. You're number 12, and I understand your reasoning for this. All wreaths being placed during the registered Wreaths Across America event must be provided by Wreaths Across America. My concern with that is our cemetery directory. I have no control over what the cemetery allows or doesn't allow. It is their cemetery. I am a guest there as a volunteer doing this for you guys. And their cemetery directory has allowed the Boy Scouts to lay wreaths that they do not obtain through Wreaths Across America on the same day. So as that is written, I cannot sign your policies.
So that's definitely something that, I mean, we deal with. We have, you know, there's other groups out there that place wreaths, and that's okay. We appreciate them, you know, honoring our veterans. For liability reasons, though, we have to make sure that it is noticeable, that it is separate from Wreaths Across America. So I think that's something that we can work out with you and with your cemetery director, especially with them being a national cemetery. We can definitely address that. So just reach out, get with
Rochelle is my new one, I think.
Michelle. Yeah. I have to keep looking at the map because I can't keep track of all these changes. But
Nice.
get with Rochelle, and she can we can set up a meeting. Maybe me, you, and Rochelle can get on the phone and talk through some of that.
They
So
do try to have them at the opposite end of the cemetery at the very least. It's just they're specifically there on that day on purpose. So
yeah, we'll figure out a game plan for it.
okay.
All right, Maggie.
Hi, Julie. This is Maggie Weaver in Westchester, Pennsylvania. Just a quick question. I signed the group and location form a couple of days ago, but I have not received a confirmation. Should I just be patient?
You signed up for a new group and location?
Yes.
Or you signed the policies?
It was the two forms that we received in an email.
Okay, yeah, so those we just continue being patient. We're actually going to start sending out those confirmations with the reinstatement piece attached to it towards the end of this week. So you should start getting that, the email this week, and then it will take us a little bit of time as we process them because we have so many at one time.
Okay, thank you.
Kathleen, you want to go ahead and ask your question?
Yeah, hi. I was reading through the reinstatement thing and I didn't sign it yet, so I could ask this question. I'm thinking about number 4. I represent a DAR chapter, and we did, since it was this past year was our first year being officially involved, we did all of our fundraising through our dues form. And so we collected all the donations for our wreaths, and then as the regent, I went in and ordered them all at the same time. And then my treasurer reimbursed me from our treasury for the donations that we got. So when I read number 4, it sort of seemed like that kind of a mass ordering was not going to be allowed anymore, and that each individual must go in and order their own individual wreath. Am I interpreting that correctly?
No. So what that's just asking is that any funds, like this is mainly for checks that are being sent in. Online orders they go through immediately, so that's much easier. This is for checks that are being sent in. So for groups out fundraising, they have a batch of checks. We want those sent in just regularly, like on a monthly basis, instead of holding them until November and sending them in, because then what happens is that puts a lot more pressure on the finance, takes longer for them to enter anything, and sometimes it results in some of the checks being returned because people forgot that they wrote it, or whatever, if it takes too long. So no, you are good in the way that you handle.
So at the end of the day, you would really like us all to be using the website and encouraging the website and making sure our members, because we're DAR as well, are using the website to contribute.
I mean, either way is fine. I mean,
it would be, but
right. I mean, we have a good finance team. They process those checks as fast as they can. But as far as, sending stuff in, obviously going online is the quicker way to do it.
Julie, may I speak to that?
Sure.
I'm Brenda Kaesler. I am the National Vice Chair Service for Veterans Wreaths Across America for DAR. And one of the things that I always recommend that the chapters do is funnel everybody to the website. There's a couple of reasons why. One is the statistics are showing that once they go on the website, they'll actually purchase more wreaths because of the way that it's set up. The other thing is that you should set it up where really there's no money going through the chapter except the checks coming back if you're on the payback plan. And and nobody has to worry about mailing checks in. Now, that's not to say that people aren't going to give you checks, but just send everybody to the website. That takes a lot of the work out of the treasurer's hands or whoever the coordinator is that's doing it, that sort of thing.
Thank you, Brenda, because that's what we've been doing.
Good.
We have a lot of elderly members who are not tech savvy, and
Right.
that's why I took that on. But yes, clearly we have directed our membership to the website because it's wonderful.
And yeah, and make sure that they make the check out to Wreaths Across America so that you don't have to do anything with any money.
Mhm.
I was just about to say that, Brenda. And the thing about checks too, Stacy, that, you know, we're trying to prevent, you know, we receive a lot of, you know, but if people hold on to checks and it's a few months and they send in a batch of checks after a few months, a lot of those checks bounce, or, you know, the people who made the donation have canceled the check because it hasn't cleared. And there's a lot more of that paperwork, and people wonder come season why it takes so long sometimes to process for November and December. Well, when there's that many checks coming in at that time period, especially if they're outdated or you know, it makes for a whole other level of processing that it would make it a lot easier if we received those throughout the year and we were able to move them through a little bit faster.
And Amber, we 100% agree.
Yeah, cool.
This is Renee. I just want to reiterate that we're not saying like don't use the checks and go through the system. You know, if it's easy, sometimes I understand like we do have an older demographic that might not be tech savvy, just asking that we send them in more regularly than what we've been seeing. Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate that.
Yeah, and that's what this policy is. It's just asking that it's a little bit more frequent. It just will help the process on our end and on your end for everybody.
Yeah, this is Vanessa Richardson. I'm glad to hear that any form is acceptable. I think it's very generous of people to donate their money, and particularly this year where Wreaths were not laid at Salisbury in North Carolina. I'm with North Mech Republican Women's Club, and we donated, we were collecting donations after the decision. We weren't made aware of the decision that Wreaths wouldn't be laid, and we continued collecting money. And I thought it was very generous, not only that they donated 100% by check, except for the 8 that I bought through the website, because I'm, as you've said, I'm part of that younger demographic, but those people didn't ask for their money back either. So glad to hear you accept money in any form.
Oh, of course.
Are the forms, this is Heather, I'm from Arizona. Are the forms the same if we are going to do by check? I'm also part of a DAR group, and I've had some of our older members hand me the checks, and last year I filled out the form and mailed it in. Are the forms the same?
Yeah, the sponsorship forms are the same. And, you know, we do, again, just if you're sending that stuff in, we recommend keeping a copy for your record. So that way, if they were to get lost in the mail or something was to happen, you can look back on what you sent us and we can collaborate on fixing that.
Okay, great.
Any other questions?
Hello, Julie. This is Sanjay Shah. I'm from Civil Air Patrol, New Jersey wing. I'm a finance officer presenting on behalf of NJ 102. I have a question that 2 things you mentioned in the policy change. Second point of contact as a backup. Where is that mentioned in this form, especially about the group policy? If you can tell me, I'm not finding that.
That's only for location coordinators. So if you're just a sponsorship group, you don't need, that's not required. That's just for the location coordinators.
Okay, got it. How about this second item, every 6 weeks? I think that is the first thing I see in the policy change, right? I need this document every 6 weeks. Communicate with at least every 6 weeks, once every 6 weeks.
Yeah, and that's just I mean, it doesn't have to be anything formal. It can just be replying to, you know, we send out like monthly emails from your liaisons. You can just kind of reply just so that we know that we have your correct email address. And so we don't have to worry, like, do we have to, because sometimes people will update their email address, they forget to tell us. And then come November, they're like, we didn't get any emails all year long. So we just want to make sure that we always have your information on hand so that you're getting what you need from us.
Got you. Other than that, typically any changes in policy we need to present to our wing before we sign it. Do you have a specific document which is, we can say this was the old policy and this is the new policy, which we like comparable, something that I can present it to Wing before we sign this?
We actually reached out to CAP at the national level to get this all approved from them, and I don't think we have heard back.
I haven't heard back. I've reached out to Christina Jones, and typically what we did last year was CAP, actually HQ signed it on behalf of all CAP groups. So I did reach out. I have not heard back, and so we will, because typically I believe that it has to be HQ that signs.
Yes, it does.
We'll have to get back to you as soon as we hear back from Civil Air Patrol. So I think that might be, if I don't hear back by tomorrow, I'll reach out again. I think they've been kind of off from HQ, hasn't been in the office, I think, for a while. So.
Got you. So we can hold on to it until you guys hear from HQ.
I think that's.
We'll send an email out to all the CAP groups after we hear from them, letting you guys know which way to move forward with that.
Yeah.
Okay, will do. Thank you.
I have a question. This is Dacre Champion. Last year was our first time that we did Wreaths Across America at a cemetery in Florida. And a bunch of people took the forms and they called directly into the 1-800 line. And they didn't have a way, there's nothing on there that tells them who is the sponsoring group. They weren't able to do that. So to get any kind of credit, we asked them to go back online and send you a message, but most of them didn't do it. So is there a way you can add that to your telephone line where they can be directed to the how to get the credit to the right sponsorship group?
So what we recommend is if you're going to send people, if you're sending them onto your webpage, you always want to give them your direct link to your group page. If you're handing them a paper form, when you download those sponsorship forms, you can edit them to put your group ID on them.
It was on there.
You can just, and if so, I would just maybe attach a note saying, make sure that if you call in that you are giving them referencing this group ID or location ID number when you place the order online or over the phone.
Well, I did talk to several people and they said they were asked about that and the person said they couldn't do that, whoever they talked to. I'm just telling you what they told me. I don't know.
No, we can absolutely take orders for groups and locations over the phone. So if that's something, that is being said, please reach out to your liaison and let them know so that we can address it. But
okay,
so that, to be clear though, location coordinators can't and group leaders can't make a change to a donation. The actual person making the donation has to make the change. So that is one piece of that. So if they accidentally meant to give it to a group or a specific location and didn't, it's up to the donor to then call and make that change. And we will make that change if the donor calls.
Thank you.
Judy, did you have your hand up?
Oh, I said hi.
Hi,
Sorry.
Judy. Nice to
Hi,
see you.
darling. Sorry, I was late. I'm sorry.
You're okay.
Sorry, it's being recorded. You can watch all the fun stuff later.
Oh, I do have one more thing.
Any other questions?
Can I ask one more thing? Sorry, this is Dacre.
Go ahead.
It actually worked out to our favor, but I had talked to the guy that was the delivery. I'm the location coordinator and the sponsorship coordinator right now. But I had talked to the guy that was making the delivery. And I told him several times, because he was having some kind of issues. He didn't get there the day he said he was going to get there. Anyway, I told him, I have to be there. Call me. I live 30 minutes from where you're supposed to deliver these. I will meet you there. 2 hours later, I finally get a hold of him again because I kept calling him. Oh, I left them there with the people at the produce department. And anyway, he also left 14 extra boxes of wreaths because he was at the end of the line. And he told me, well, you can just call the other people and let them know if they need wreaths that you have them. So how do we handle something like that?
You call your liaison and let us handle it for you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I did call Trish and she did handle it.
Julie,
and-
this is Phil
And
Bailey.
keep in mind that our trucking partners, I'd say about 95% of them are volunteers, and a lot of these drivers are volunteers. So it's one of those things where we definitely give direction and we give training for our volunteer truck drivers, but it doesn't mean that it always is going to work out the way it's supposed to. So please contact your liaison and we'll get it figured out for you.
Thank you. Because I know it says you're supposed to sign for them, and I don't know if anybody actually signed for these
Julie,
rates.
this is Phil Bailey.
And that's fine.
All right, I'll mute myself. I'm done.
Hey, Julie, this is Grody.
Hi.
How you doing? Hey, I got just a quick question. I've been here and I haven't heard anything about the boxes and that coming in. I know we sent Megan photos of the way our boxes come in this past year, and I'm hoping other people didn't have the same problem. I don't know, in fact, the driver, had we not had a couple of other people there, would have been crushed underneath them when they come out, because them boxes, I mean, they were totally destroyed towards the back of the truck. They had like plastic strips across them. And I mean, they were just, and when you opened that door, I mean, there was about 15 or 20 boxes that came right out on top of us. And it seems like, I think one year they brought them in on pallets. And I don't know if this is a distribution that comes, you know, the different centers or whatever it is, but it sure makes a big difference when they do come in, especially when you're unloading, you know, like 4,000 wreaths and that, if they're on pallets, to get them placed where you need them.
Yeah, and we did, Megan had shared that with me, and we did share that with our logistics team. And we did have some issues with some of the cross docks not, you know, putting those back in the trucks the way that packing them the best way they should have been. And that is something that the logistics team already has a plan to address for this year, so that that won't happen again.
Julie,
Thank
this
you.
is Barbara Gray in Atlanta. I just want to change the subject and say, we had a fantastic truck driver. This is the first year that we've had wreaths delivered to the Confederate Cemetery. They've always been delivered to the National Cemetery, and we had to go over and get them. This year just could not have been smoother, could not have been nicer. And I just want to say thank you to the truck drivers and the trucking company and everybody else.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I'm glad everything went smoothly.
Hi, I'm Ann Daly. I'm from the Newark Union Cemetery in Wilmington, Delaware. And in one of your policy statements for sponsorship groups, it says the sponsored wreaths will be sent directly to the location for which the donor indicated on their order. What happens when you have too many wreaths for the veterans in your cemetery? We had a lot of people that sponsored wreaths. We had 88 wreaths sponsored, and we only had 62 veterans. So what do we do then when the donor really wants it to come here?
So for those extra wreaths, the location coordinator sets what happens to them, whether they roll over to the next year or if they are, you know, given to another location that might be nearby. If your sponsorship group is, you know, just sending in sponsors for there, if the cemetery is covered, that those rollover wreaths would go to how the location is set up, whether it be next year or another cemetery. So they're not going to send an excess of what is, you know, like they're not going to like double up and send, you know, 2 or 3 wreaths for one grave. That's not going to happen.
Okay, yeah, we did indicate that any excess wreaths were to go to the Veteran Cemetery down in Bear, because they didn't have all their sponsored. But again, if the if the donors find out that it went elsewhere and didn't come here and they get disappointed, how do you tactfully handle that?
So if all the graves are covered, for the most part, it's not going to be a question. It would come into question as if, you know, the wreaths, if all the graves weren't covered. So what that policy is saying is that the wreaths are not being sent directly to the donors or the sponsorship groups, but rather to the location that they sponsored. So that is more for if a donor goes on through your group page and sponsors a wreath for a location that is not necessarily your like main location you support, their wreath would go to that other location, not the location, the one that they chose, not the one you support, if they choose to do otherwise.
I see. Okay, thank you.
And honestly, Anne, I think in most cases, if a sponsor knows, as long as a wreath is being placed to honor an American hero, I think most people would be okay with that.
Okay, thank
And
you.
if not, send them to me.
Okay, thank you.
Granted.
Well, and the other thing too is how would they know if theirs got there or not? I mean, it's not like they have names on them.
They don't have name tags, exactly.
True, that's true.
Yeah.
But when you're looking at Arlington with 270,000 requirements, if you can't meet it somewhere locally and it goes to Arlington, God bless.
Yeah, right. Yep, absolutely. Looks like we have one person with their hand raised. Just iPhone.
No name. It says iPhone.
iPhone, go ahead, ask your question.
I had some questions from people about the extra wreaths that came in our package of 9 packages. We had 7 extra. Do those wreaths need to go to another cemetery that is registered, or could they go to a cemetery that with a family that has a veteran at another cemetery, not the one that is our cemetery?
So if you get extra wreaths, you should always contact your liaison, and then your liaison will work with you to determine where they should go. Because if there is another cemetery nearby and you got extra wreaths and that cemetery may not have gotten all their wreaths that they should have gotten for their location, we may want to get them over there. So best practice is just contact your liaison and work that out with them.
All right, I'm talking about the wreaths that they came 9 in a carton, and we had 7 extra. So
okay, so just like
follow the liaison?
No, if
Because
it's just
they're
where
packaged
if it's just where it's rounded up because of the box count, those, if all of your veterans in your cemetery are covered, yes, please feel free to place those at another veteran's grave. If it was a huge amount, which if it's just extras in boxes, it should be like no more than 9 wreaths. You can just place them at cemeteries that aren't necessarily signed up with us.
We ran into that problem. We ran into that problem here in Massachusetts last year, where we were the last stop and the truck driver had, believe it or not, about 40 extra boxes. And I told him, well, they're really not mine. He goes, well, take them. So I ended up calling down to Bourne National Cemetery on Cape Cod. And we actually brought them down there, and they placed them on their graves down there. So it's just a matter of, if you have, like Julie said, contact and some local other coordinators and sharing them with them if they need them.
Yeah, and always contact your liaison so that we know, so that we can keep track of where all these wreaths went. Because
yeah, especially in that case, it's very likely that somebody didn't get the boxes they were supposed to get, and
like I said, we were the last stop. It's not this year, not this previous, not 2020. It happened in 2019. It was 2 years ago. But yeah, I mean, he said it was his last stop. I'm like, well, bring him back. He goes, well, I'm not going back. I'm like, okay, I'll figure something out. And, like I said, I felt that giving him to the National Cemetery was the better option. And I was glad they were able to take him.
Yeah, we always want to make sure that they find a home on a veteran's grave. That's the ultimate goal. These wreaths, they need to be placed on a veteran's grave, whether if that's where they were originally intended to go or not. But we just want to make sure that we're always contacting our liaison and letting them know so that we know what's going on. We will not, if you get extra wreaths, we're not going to hold you accountable for those. Like, we're not going to take those out of your count for next year or whatever, if it's a shipping issue. So, but we do appreciate you making sure that those found a home. Looks like, Julie, did you raise your hand again?
I did. What can I tell you? That popped into my head. So every year, I've been doing this since it started, and I love doing it. But every year, my cemetery reminds me ever so politely, please do not put the wreath on a grave that has a religious marker that does not align with the idea of Christmas, because wreaths in general are thought of as a Christmas symbol, even though that's not what we're going for here. I really want to put something on those other graves, though. And I was wondering if you guys have ever given any thought to what else might be possible.
So Julie, this is me. This is Amber. So what I would do is I would work with your cemetery to see what they would consider acceptable. There's a lot of cemeteries that allow for instance, on Jewish stones for, you know, a pebble or a rock or coins to be placed. It depends on the actual cemetery itself and what they would allow. As far as Wreaths Across America is concerned, our wreaths are for their veterans wreaths and they're for everybody. And we encourage, if there isn't a wreath place, to stop and say that person's name.
Yeah, they're more responsive to other people complaining. So I already know that they will not let any of the wreaths go onto any grave that has a marker on it that's not Christian. If it doesn't have a marker, it's okay. But if it has a marker that is not specifically Christian based, then we're not to place it there. I thought, what if I put, you know, like say, have some wreaths that have like the Star of David all over it? Would that make a difference to them? But I can't personally afford that. So.
We would ask that not be done. We would ask that we not alter the wreath.
Amber, can I tell them what I've done?
Sure.
I contacted a couple of rabbis because I had decided that I was going to convince them that they weren't Christmas wreaths, that they were remembrance wreaths. And the first question that the rabbi asked me was, what color are the ribbons? And so I knew I was screwed. And I said, well, they're red. And he said, and when do you place them? And I said, in December. He said, okay, honey, they're Christmas wreaths. So I said, but I don't like them being empty. What can we do? And he said, the thing to do is to put a stone on top of the marker. So I went back to, I am in a national cemetery. I went back to my cemetery director and I said, can we do that? And he said, yes, just make sure that they're a big enough stone where when they're mowing the yard, that they don't become projectiles. So every year, our Jewish Veterans Association comes a couple of days beforehand and places the stones on the Jewish headstones.
Yeah, and we did that overseas. I mean, we did when we went to Normandy and Belgium and the Netherlands, we placed the white stones. But that was a conversation that was had with the cemetery director, and it was something that is acceptable. For instance, Arlington does not allow that. They ask that you not use stones because they can become dangerous. So again, it's one of those situations where I would ask that you would talk with your cemetery, and we can certainly connect to Julie and see ways to help with communication on that.
Amber, this is Karen. I actually met with several years ago. I was invited down to Washington, D.C., and I met with the Jewish war veterans. And I had a phone call with them ahead of that, and there were 7 of them on the phone, and they couldn't agree with each other because it's not just about ribbons; it's about greenery. It depends on how they follow their faith and all that. So, and like you said, the Arlington National Cemetery would pull our hair and theirs out if they put rocks on the stones. So what we've always done, as you know, is that we do make them available. And I can see Dan's face there. And at Arlington, one of the bigger problems we have are the veterans of the Jewish faith family will want wreaths. Some will want them and some won't. And oftentimes we have people, the families will put them on, and then somebody else will be trying to be a do-gooder and take them off. So like you said, it's about your area, and it's about your cemetery, what your rules around the cemetery are. But it is very much regional and depends on how they worship in that region. So to be mindful of that. But I think you're absolutely right on there. You have to talk to the cemetery about it. But also, we had the rabbi speak that day at Arlington. I'll never forget it because he said had two friends buried there. He knew one would want a wreath and one wouldn't, but he would, like you say the names. I think it's just important that people understand that we're guests of the cemetery and guests of the community. So I think it's very much regional, and listen, and having advisors, like you just said, in that area is the best way to do it. But I think we need to be careful how we project what our policy is, because we are guests of the cemetery, but we do make the wreaths available if anybody wants them.
Thanks, Karen. I feel like, so Julie, you had somebody that's been, Janelle?
Yep, Janelle, you had your hand raised for a little bit, so we're going to try to, if you want to ask your question, we're going to try to squeeze you in before we wrap it up. And while we wait for her, Harry, I know you've been patiently waiting as well. So
well, let Harry talk.
Okay, now I unmuted myself.
Okay, go ahead,
Hold on,
Janelle, and then we'll jump to Harry.
Okay, so for Janelle, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So this is more of just a thought for policy maybe in the future. I'm not really sure. We have a small cemetery. We have 120 veterans. So we had that many wreaths coming, but we were short, 30 plus the 7 for the, for the service wreaths. So we know somewhere along the line, somebody must have gotten more wreaths than they actually we're supposed to get. So I think people should, agree on the policy that they will only take as many as they're supposed to have. I think we were sort of towards the end of the line. There was one cemetery after us, and everybody on the truck apparently was getting shorted. So I don't know, just a thought. We got a few from a neighboring cemetery, and then we were still short, but we did what we could.
Yeah, and we definitely understand that, and we do have in there, we're asking people to be responsible for counting and only taking what's on their bill of lading. That we are definitely encouraging and pushing that for people to make sure that they are counting their boxes. And obviously, like some people, when they get to the end of the line and they just have extra boxes on the truck, it's kind of a different situation. But we do want to make sure, because one box, okay, you took one box more, but by the time you get to the last stop, if every stop, and there's 6 other stops on there, have taken a box, now this location is, you're looking at, more than 60 wreaths that are, shorted. So it can make a big difference. So it is very important to always count your boxes. If you think that you should have more than what's on your bill of lading, you want to call your liaison, because they may be on another truck, and we just you don't want to take more than what you should be taking. And it's always count them, because eyeballing them, you might get like one more box. So you always want to make sure that you are counting those boxes, so you're only taking the right amount.
Thank you.
And all right, Harry, go ahead.
Thank you. One of the things, most importantly, regardless of whether there's a wreath, whether there's a rock or anything else, as Karen has said numerous times, Amber and Julie and everybody else, it's most important that we say their names. I mean, of all of the other things that you could possibly do, is making sure that they're always remembered. So. Yep,
absolutely. Thank you. All right, so it is after 9, and I'm sure everyone is ready to get on with their evening. So we're going to wrap it up. If anyone has any additional questions, please just reach out to your liaison. We're happy to help. And this will be recorded. We'll send that recording to you within the next week.
And it'll be available on our, all of our monthly webinars, it'll be available on our YouTube page as well, everyone. So if you go to the Wreaths Across America YouTube channel, you can find all of our past webinars there.
Yep.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. Thanks. Y'all have a good evening.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you, ladies. Appreciate it.